everyone, welcome back to Nick's Diecast. In today's video, I'll be unboxing and reviewing this 1/24th scale Ford Crown Victoria made by Motormax. Now, Motormax calls this a 1998 Ford Crown Victoria, as you can see on the back of the box there, but this is actually based off a 1997 Crown Victoria, because the Crown Victoria in real life was redone for the 1998 model year. And that generation would be produced until 2011. But this is based off the 1992 through 1997 version of the Ford Crown Victoria, specifically the 1997 model. But I got this model from blackdogdiecast.com along with another Motormax 1/24 scale model, which was the 2023 Dodge Charger. But blackdogdiecast.com was formerly known as policecarmodels.com until they changed their name to Black Dog Diecast sometime in 2022 or 2023 or so. But they unfortunately have recently ceased operations, and they had a going out of business sale for the past several months. So about a month or two ago, I decided to get a couple of last models from their site. So I ended up getting this Ford Crown Victoria along with that Dodge Charger that I mentioned. I got this Crown Victoria model for just over $13 in total, and I was able to get a $10 discount off my entire purchase, which was this model along with its Charger. And it is unfortunate that Black Dog Diecast is no longer in existence in terms of selling models, but I'm glad I was able to get this Crown Victoria and that Charger for sure. But once again, I got this for just over $13 in total. This is in the older style of Motormax box, as you can see here. They did have quite a bit of these Motormax Crown Victorias on their website in several just plain colors, like you see here, along with several of the police versions as well. In terms of the regular colors, for just like the regular version of the Crown Victoria, Motormax made it in this really nice kind of Spectra Flame blue, along with a dark Spectra Flame red, and also a black and a white version. And of course, the police versions came in various undecorated and decorated versions, where you had light bars, no light bars, graphics on the sides or no graphics. But all in all, the regular versions are very similar, if not the same, in terms of overall details and quality to the police versions. So this review could be considered for both versions. And I happen to have a New Orleans police version of this same casting. So towards the end of the video, I'll compare the police version that I have to this regular version here. But we'll go ahead and get this model out of the box. This, once again, is in the older style of Motormax box. So this, I'm guessing, was sitting around in their warehouse for quite some time. I'm not sure if Motormax is actively making either version of this particular Crown Victoria casting anymore at this point, but the New Orleans version that I have was made around like the early 2000s or so, and this one I'm going to guess was made around then too, maybe the mid to late 2000s, not totally sure, but it's in the older kind of black and brown style of Motormax box, 1/24th diecast collection, and then you have the Motormax logo down there with some other stuff. And you have the name of the car on the back of the box, different wording up here, just the basic Motormax logo on the side flaps. Not much back here. Then on the bottom here, you do have some different licensing information. It does have a 2007 copyright date. So I assume that's around when this model was made. A lot of times the copyright dates on Motormax boxes correspond to when the model itself was made. So that's kind of a rule of thumb, I guess, right there. But it looks like at least one of these sides, not sure actually. Yeah, looks like they are still taped shut. So we'll just cut off this tape here. Then we'll get the model out of the box. Like that. Pretty dusty. I guess it was sitting around for quite some time. There was kind of a small hole on the top of that plastic, as you saw. But here is the Crown Victoria. I really do like that blue one here. I don't think this blue was available on the real life 97 Crown Victoria. I think there was a lighter shade of blue that was factory, but this Spectra Flame blue looks really cool on the car. This one does have actual screws. Some of those newer Motormax releases have those plastic tab things that are kind of hard to get off, but this does have the regular screws on it. So, get those. So we'll get off the screws next. All right, there's the Crown Victoria out of the box and off the base. Once again, it is pretty dusty. I'll clean that up a little bit later. But as you can see, there are two straps holding shut the doors and the hood, because this does have the opening doors and the opening hood. So just pull these off. Easy enough. This one, I think, should hopefully be similarly easy. There we go. All right, here's our Crown Victoria. Dust was easy enough to get off. Looks like a nice model. Once again, I love that blue paint scheme on there. This does have working steering, because older Motormax 1/24 scale models did come with the working steering, which is cool to see. You also have the opening front doors. And the opening hood. Good looking model. Now I'll take a closer look at it and review it next. All right, here's our 1997 Ford Crown Victoria out of the box. And I also have a marked New Orleans police version of this casting to compare to the unmarked version. And I say the unmarked version because this is modeled after a P71 Ford Crown Victoria as well. And I say that because you can tell that this is based off a Crown Victoria P71 unmarked police package model based off the wheels, as well as all the different radios on the interior, as you see right here. Of course, I don't think the real-life Crown Victoria P71 from this particular generation came in this Spectre Flame Blue or that Spectre Flame Red that Motormax sells this unmarked version in. Although you can get this also in black or white. And of course, this car was available in those two paint schemes. And then, of course, Motormax also sold various marked versions of this casting, most of which came with light bars as well. And there is actually an unmarked version that's a black and white paint scheme that comes with two clear light bars. So if you like customizing police car models, that model might be a consideration for you. But aside from that, the marked and unmarked versions of this casting are pretty much identical. Of course, most of the marked versions will have different, tampos for different departments and whatnot. The New Orleans version that you see here is no longer being made, and this was made, I think, in the early 2000s or so. I've had this model for a long time at this point. But the wheels are the same, the opening features are the same, and the overall build quality is the same. The only key differences are a couple of interior details. The unmarked versions will not come with the partition between the front seats and the rear seat, but most of the marked versions will, as you can see right here. And you also have the gun mounted between the two front seats of the marked version, whereas for the unmarked version, you do not. But aside from that, you do see all the identical radios and everything on both the interiors of the models. And of course, I will be focusing the video on the unmarked version right here, but I just wanted to show you the differences between the unmarked version and the marked version. But this review could really be considered for both versions because the overall build quality and everything is going to be the same. But I think Motormax overall did a decent job with this particular model. This is the only 1/24 scale model that you can get in diecast of this generation Crown Victoria. And again, Motormax incorrectly calls this a 1998 model when it's actually a 1997 model because the Crown Victoria was redone for 1998, and that generation would last until 2011 when the Crown Victoria was last made. So But in terms of the details, we'll look at the exterior of the model first. I think Motormax did do a good job of capturing the overall look and shape of the Crown Victoria. Although this particular shade of blue is not accurate to what would have been an available paint color on the real car, it does look really nice, especially in kind of like that Spectre Flame finish. And I think does stand out and makes this particular car look even cooler than it already is in terms of its overall design and whatnot. But in the front here, Motormax I think does a decent job with the headlights. They are the right overall size and shape. There are kind of two obvious pegs in the centers of each of the lights though, unfortunately, but that being said, the lenses at least do have a nice texture on the outside, as you can see here. These are a little bit loose and they don't fit that well with the body. There is kind of like a rough corner here where the turn signal is. This side is not as present, but I've seen a lot of different versions of this particular model, and most of them will have that problem in some form or fashion, unfortunately. You do have the center grille here, which is done in chrome with the very small Ford badge. This is the accurate shape to what you would see on the real car. The paint quality I already talked about a little bit, but the overall paint quality of this model I think is well done for the most part. The paint job is nice and smooth throughout. And again, the Spectre Flame Blue I think really does look nice on this particular car. But the paint finish I think is well done for a Motormax 1/24 scale model. On the side of the car, I think Motormax did a decent job with the wheels. They do have the overall right look and shape to them, except they are once again entirely chromed out, similar to the front grille. These would of course be hollowed out spokes if this were the real Crown Victoria P71. But Motormax just kind of does the wheels as one single chrome mold, but that's not really a big deal because this is a 1/24 scale model and a cheaper one at that. And you do have the nice large Ford logos in the center of each of the four wheels, which look well done. You do get working steering on this model, which is kind of a surprise, but Motormax did once include working steering on their 1/24 scale models. And the steering, I think, is very good on the model too, which is very nice to see. Tires look good too. The tires aren't always flush with the wheels. You kind of have to like work them a little bit when you first get the model out from the box, so that way they fit, kind of flush around the wheel and they're not like, all stretched out or pulled around or anything like that. That's actually a problem that I've encountered on both of these models. But once you get the tires kind of, evenly around the wheel, they look fine. And you also have nice sturdy metal side mirrors as well, which is a nice touch. Taking a look at the back of the model, I think Motormax did a good job with the overall look and shape of this portion of the car as well. And the taillights look decently done. These are, I think, more flush with the body than the headlights are. And although the Ford badge looks nice back here, and it is in the center and looks quite large, it's actually inaccurate to what you would have seen on the real Crown Victoria P71 from 1997. The logo should actually be smaller and kind of off to the right side of the trunk lid here. And then you would actually have a Crown Victoria inscription on this side of the trunk lid. So that is an inaccurate sizing and placement of the badge back here, but at least it looks good. It's nice and clear in terms of how it is printed onto the car. But I kind of wish Motormax did a slightly more accurate job back here and had the badge off to the right side instead of in the center, and have it be a smaller badge as opposed to this larger badge that you see here. And these do have some pegs in them, but they're hard to see from a distance. This does have the DARE license plate on the back here, Drug Abuse Resistance Education, and I believe all versions of this model come with this license plate in the rear and the same number license plate in the front here, just the generic 419298. This one used to have it, but it fell off at one point. I did play with this model as a kid, as you can tell by some of the scuffs on here, but I do take care of it now. In terms of the opening features of the model, you do have the opening hood, because Motormax did once include the opening hoods on their 1/24 scale models. They still do on occasion, but they're kind of sticking to just having the opening doors on their models instead of the opening hoods and the opening doors. But the edge detail, I think, in here of the V8 is decently done for a 1/24 scale model. It is largely just one single piece of plastic, but there is some depth to it, and there is some additional chrome details in the front here, and you can actually see all the way down to the bottom of the car as well, This is, I think, one of Motormax's better engine jobs in terms of the overall detail and quality when you compare this to some of the other 1/24th scale models that they have made over the years. So that is nice to see. And there really are no differences between the engine of the unmarked version and the marked version. They're essentially identical. So nice job in here, I think, for sure. You also get the opening doors as well. They open up on dogleg hinges, and they should have a frame around them, but they don't. I think to save on costs, Motormax just molded in the pillars into the body instead of having it open up with the door. So it doesn't look that great, kind of on the cheap side, but not a big deal, I guess. At least the doors open up to begin with. They do open up on dogleg hinges, so you can expect them to get kind of loosened up as they're open and shut frequently. So just keep that in mind, and as a result, I would recommend not opening and closing the doors on this model too frequently, so that way the hinges stay nice and strong. But the interior detail, I think, on the model is decently done. You can see here's the seats. They do have a nice look and texture to them. They're a little bit on the smaller side, I think, in terms of how they're scaled with the rest of the model, but at least they are the accurate shape to what you would see on the real vehicle. And they have a nice texture going on as well. Door panels, you don't really see a whole lot on there. They're just kind of all black. I believe the real car, you would at least have a chrome door handle and some molded and some buttons that you could see as well. At least they are the accurate, I guess, overall shape and look on the door panels. And they do fit nice and flush with the metal portions of the doors too. So that is nice to see at least. And the rest of the interior, Motormax does mold in all the different buttons that you see in the center stack, as well as on the different radios and scanners that you see in here. Although nothing is colored in. I think all the different placements of the buttons are accurate to what you would see on the real vehicle, but there's no coloring on here. The interior is just all done in black. You would, of course, see some different colors with like the different buttons and everything if this were the real car. But on here, they're just all done in a black finish with no additional paint details. But that's okay, I think, because a lot of budget model manufacturers will do that for 1/24th scale models. And at least all the buttons are at least present. Motormax just didn't do like flat slabs for like the center stack or for the different scanners and everything. And I do like how they include all the different radios and scanners on the interior as well. They are kind of hard to see in here because this is an all black interior. But I think in terms of the overall detail in here, in spite of the fact that there's no additional coloring or finer details, Motormax, I think, did a decent job on the interior of this model for sure. I think this is a decent model of the 1992 through 1997 Ford Crown Victoria P71. And the same, of course, goes for the marked version of this casting as well. I think some more fine detail definitely would have been welcome, but Motormax did initially release this model either in the late 1990s when this generation of Crown Victoria was still being made and about to be replaced by the last generation Crown Victoria. And they carried it all the way until recent years. I believe they still might be making some versions of this model to this day. But if Motormax has in fact retired this particular model, there are still many that are available online on various sites and everything like that. And I think as long as you're paying under like $25 in total for this particular model, you're getting a decent model of the early to mid 1990s Ford Crown Victoria. And I especially do like the unmarked blue version here for sure. So if you can find this model for a good price, I would definitely recommend getting it. I think it would look good in any collection of police car models or 1990s vehicles or Crown Victoria models, if you happen to like any of those particular types of models. Feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on the video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.